There was three signings on Sunday night at the winter meetings, two of them by the Dodgers, but the biggest one was Juan Soto, and it was not the Dodgers. What does that mean for the Dodgers moving forward? And what were those other two signings? We'll get into all that. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get the football season going with the big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. You can make that all easy on yourself by subscribing and get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live, like we are here on Sunday night on YouTube. If this is your first time listening and watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snider, and we're both lifelong Dodger fans. We've been doing this here podcast going into 7 years now. We've been doing the Dodger podcast longer than that. We've both covered the team for the last decade in a few different ways. So you can say that the Dodgers are a big part of our life, and we'll continue to make that a big part of our life by doing this here podcast every Monday through Friday, or recording Sunday through Thursday most of the time. So, Jeff, there's a lot to get into in this episode. There was not a lot to get into up until a few hours ago. Now, there is a lot to get into, but we'll start with the big news. The Dodgers did sign Michael Conforto. The Dodgers did re-sign Blake Treinen. We'll talk about that. But the big news is that Juan Soto will not be a Dodger. He will be a Met. He got $765 million over 15 years, no deferrals, one opt-out, and not surprising in the sense that he went to the Mets. I don't know if you're surprised at all by the money. But, the Juan Soto saga is over, so we don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, it seems like Soto and the Mets had an agreement. Soto said, I want as much money as possible. I also want to play for the Mets. And Steve Cohen said, okay, go get your offers and come back and I'll beat up by $5 million. Because the other reported offer we've heard was the Yankees 16 years, $760 million. So they beat it by $5 million. The opt-out is kind of interesting because if he doesn't opt out, then it adds $4 million a year. So it'll add $40 million to the total contract, taking over $800 million. It's crazy money. And I think the Dodgers were genuinely interested in Juan Soto, but definitely not at that money. I think the Dodgers have done a really good job over the past decade under Andrew Friedman of being willing to spend money, but also recognizing how to build a long-term winning team. And it's kind of interesting. I was telling somebody tonight, like, I feel like this much money from Soto would have made more sense coming from the Dodgers because they'd be plugging Soto into a team that's already elite. Like with the Mets, it's like they still have work to do. And, and maybe it is just Steve Cohen saying, I have unlimited money. I'm fine spending my own money. The Dodgers business model is we're going to make these signings and then we're going to make the money because of the signings. We know that Shohei Ohtani is already more than paid for himself. And I think they're looking at saying, well, Juan Soto, the money he brings in, here's what we think he can bring in. And we're going to pay for our baseball team with our baseball money. Steve Cohen seems to be willing to pay for his baseball team with his personal money. And I can't fault him or the Mets for that.
It's one of those where sometimes and most of the time with free agency, the deepest pockets will get the guy, and that's what it ended up being here. There's a lot of ways to think about it as a Dodger fan. Some Dodger fans can think, we dodged a bullet, or he wasn't worth it, or blah blah blah, whatever the case was. And the Dodgers were in it to the extent that John Heyman earlier on Sunday had said that their pitch to Soto, it had Ohtani, Soto, Mookie, Freddie as the top four in that lineup. So, we were going to talk about that originally, and then he ended up signing with the Mets. But, Yeah, the good part for the Dodgers, like we talked about last week. Last year, if Ohtani didn't sign with the Dodgers, they were going to be in a bad spot. Not a bad spot, but not a not great spot compared to the way it could have been with Ohtani and the way it ended up being. With Soto, the Dodgers are still the best team in baseball, regardless of if he signed here or not. The Mets, even though coming off an NFCS appearance, they still have, they're losing Pete Alonso maybe in the middle of that lineup. They might lose Sean Manaea. They already lost a couple guys. They got, Frankie Montas and some other guys. So, like you said, they're still working. Specifically for next year, they're still working. But, yeah, ultimately, not a big deal. I think him going to the Mets is fine. Like, the Dodgers will play him 7 times a year, and they might play him in the postseason sometimes. And, I don't ultimately think it'll be a big deal. That the way the Mets wanted to build themselves was like the Dodgers, and that was to, build up the farm system and then to be able to add big money guys like this in order to supplement that. They're still working on the farm system part, so adding Juan Soto maybe buys them a couple years in that realm, but they're still not anywhere near as like clear-cut winning organization as some people are kind of making it out to be.
Yeah, and my stance on Soto all along has been I wanted Soto on the Dodgers because he's one of the best hitters in baseball, but also I trust Andrew Friedman and the Dodgers to make these decisions. There's a reason that I'm not the Dodgers general manager because and I don't have any idea what the ownership's budget is. Maybe this was a budget thing. Maybe it was purely a baseball thing. I remember when Bryce Harper signed with the Phillies, and some people got mad at me for saying there are very legitimate baseball reasons to not want to sign Bryce Harper for 13 years. And we've seen already, Bryce Harper is already a first baseman, and he'd be a DH if it wasn't for the fact that they have 2 other DHs on their team already playing in the outfield. And so, all of the baseball reasons made sense. And I think there's baseball reasons to not want Soto. And I would guess that was the big part for the Dodgers, saying we don't want to pay him for 15 years, not the money, but the years. And, if they had decided, you know what, who cares about the years? Let's win 5 more World Series in a row and let future me deal with the last decade of the contract. I would have been totally fine with that. But I'm also totally fine with the Dodgers making this business decision to say, you know what, not that they can't afford to do, like I said all along, they could afford to do Soto and Teoscar and Blake Treinen and Kike Hernandez and whoever else. It's not a question of being able to afford. But if they made the business decision to say, we're going to focus our efforts on these other guys and building this well-rounded team, yeah, the Dodgers in 2025 would have been a better team with Juan Soto because Juan Soto literally makes every team better. But that doesn't mean that they can't still be the best team in baseball and win another World Series because, like you said, they are currently the best team in baseball. And Juan Soto, especially if the Mets, they probably don't re-sign Pete Alonso now. And so really it's Soto replacing Alonso in the lineup, which is so Soto's less of an upgrade there. I am happy for the Mets. I am happy for Juan Soto. I think it's good. I don't think they're ruining baseball. In fact, maybe Juan Soto saved baseball by not signing with the Dodgers. If I understand that right, it's only a bad thing when the Dodgers sign the good players. So I think Juan Soto saved baseball tonight. So congratulations to him on that. I hope he gets a piece of metal for that or something. But all in all, I would have loved to see Juan Soto in Dodger blue, but I'm okay.
Yeah, like I said, it was luxury at this point, and luxury can mean a few different things. Luxury can be like, oh, hey, we can tack it on and no big deal. Or luxury can mean, hey, we're adding, $750 million to, our docket to pay for. And like I said, they can afford it. I do think some of the questions about Soto's, him, like the ROI, like Ohtani's ROI was very evident early on. And most players aren't like Ohtani, but if you're going to pay that much for a guy, you would think it is. And yeah, the Mets are probably going to sell a bunch of Soto jerseys. But then after that, what else is going to happen with Soto? There is a large Dominican fan base out there in New York, but a lot of them are, Yankees fans. So maybe they'll get some, some conversions there from Yankees to Mets or whatever it is. But, again, there was no wrong way for the Dodgers to handle this. They went about it however they did. I'm sure we might get what their final offer was at some point in the next few days, or we might not, but it won't really matter because the Dodgers sit here presently on December 8th, the best team in baseball on paper, coming off a World Series win and still looking to add, probably at least a couple more impact players or players that, will round out the roster. And they did add 2 players on Sunday. One of them we know very well, Blake Treinen, who's coming back, and the other one was an outfielder, Michael Conforto. We'll talk about Michael Conforto next, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. I want to thank you. Today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off site-wide during their cyber sale at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code MLB. With 5 generations of experience, Omaha Steaks consistently delivers the world's best steak experience, and their gifting experts have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages started at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide during the cyber sale at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners can get an extra $30 off with promo code MLB and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code MLB. Minimum purchase may apply. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can subscribe and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we are going live on YouTube, like we are here on Sunday nights. And you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube. Those are 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. There's also the Locked On MLB podcast, which I'm sure we'll be talking about the Juan Soto deal from a different perspective with our pal Sully and, whoever else he brings on to talk about it. So make sure to check that out. But we're here to talk Dodgers, and we're here to talk about Michael Conforto, the newest Dodger. Was reported that he signed agreed to a 1-year, $17 million deal. And Jeff, I don't even know. Michael Conforto's name has been said on this podcast before, but not in a long time, and definitely not for this offseason.
Yeah, we haven't said that name probably since he signed with the Giants. Maybe we may have cursed his name a time or two. I don't remember if he did anything against the Dodgers in the last couple of years, but it was not like it's totally out of the blue. There's been talk about how the Dodgers might want to add a left-handed hitting outfielder. And, obviously Juan Soto was the left-handed hitting outfielder out there. But, if we had looked, Juan Soto or Michael Conforto made a lot of sense from that standpoint. And, but it did kind of come out of the blue in that we weren't thinking about him yet. We were expecting the Dodgers to sign an outfielder, and we thought it would be either Juan Soto or Teoscar Hernandez or both. We'll talk about Teoscar in the next segment. I still think that's coming. But Conforto is interesting. He's cheap. It's a 1-year deal. We've said many times, everybody's said there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. $17 million sounds like a lot of money to you and me. But as far as Major League Baseball players go, veterans, it's really not a huge contract for him. It's less than he's made the last couple of years with the Giants. And Conforto can hit. He had some interesting, I was reading about him this evening, had some interesting underlying numbers. He had one of the biggest gaps in baseball between his actual numbers and his expected numbers. So basically, he had a 116 OPS plus despite being unlucky. Basically, he was hitting the ball better than the results showed, and the results were still pretty good. One of the interesting things to me is that in his career, he's significantly better against right-handers, like most left-handed hitters are. But in 2024, he was actually a lot better against lefties. And I'm interested to see if that is a real thing. Ideally would be that he would just even out and be good against both hands. But that's something I think, the Dodgers and us will all have our eyes on as the season gets going is who's the real Michael Conforto? Which version are we getting on this 1-year deal? The one who mashes lefties or the one who mashes righties or somewhere in between? But all in all, it's when you view this in the context of other moves that they've made or that we expect them to make, it's a pretty I like the move.
Yeah, it's a guy that has been above average offensively pretty much his entire career, and that's against both sides or the combination of both. He's had an OPS plus under 100 once in his career. He's been at 100 twice, and he's been significantly over the other time. So he's a good hitter overall. We didn't talk about it that when the day when Dave Vassay had said that the Dodgers and Teoscar were, progressing on a deal or whatever it is, he did also mention that night something about a left-handed hitter in like the Jason Hayward capacity that the Dodgers were still looking to add. So, this fits that exactly. Conforto has played left field mostly the last couple of seasons. The Dodgers could put him in left field and put Teoscar Hernandez in right field, and they'd be perfectly fine if that was the case. Conforto can be a platoon guy, depending how they feel about those numbers from last year, or if they want to just go to the overall numbers. But ultimately, it's an above-average bat for 1 year, and I think it does. Assuming what happens with Teoscar Hernandez, it's a little bit of insurance there. Like if the Dodgers don't end up getting Teoscar Hernandez and don't end up, going after anybody else, or you're going to decide to go a different way, then okay, you have a guy that's a not comparable bat, but a good bat out there in the outfield. And, you can hope that Pages or somebody else kind of steps up, or, whatever it just opens up all the doors that they can do. But I do think it continues to show that, Chris Taylor's time is either going to be done for, because they are going to have to bring back, maybe Kike Hernandez, because how could you not? Or, Teoscar Hernandez, or that, it just pushes them further back into, I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chris Taylor's time is short. They're trying to figure out how best to do that right now, I'm sure. Conforto, and the Jason Hayward comparison is interesting. There's a couple ways that he doesn't compare. He's not as good defensively as Hayward. He's a better hitter than Hayward. And, Conforto hasn't played any center field in like 5 years. And based on the fact that he's a kind of an average corner outfielder, I suspect he can't play center field, which reduces a little bit of the flexibility. But overall, yeah, he's, whether he is an everyday outfielder or a platoon guy with Andy Pages, we know Pages hits lefties better. Maybe they're thinking that, as a platoon in left field, Pages and Conforto, maybe he's just keeping the seat warm until Dalton Rushing, mashes at AAA for a month or two and says, okay, I'm ready for this. And he comes up and takes that role. If they decide they want Rushing to be an outfielder, there's a lot of different ways that this could go, but, veteran leadership, good hitter, all in all, he's a solid player, and at a contract that even if they do decide, okay, you know what, thanks, Dalton Rushing has this role now. Okay, you can definitely trade Michael Conforto at the trade deadline if he's now redundant on your team, and you can get some prospects for him and build up the farm system that way. Dodgers usually don't trade veterans at the trade deadline, but I mean, in 2020 they traded Ross Stripling because they didn't have a need for him anymore. They got prospects for him. They've done it at times, and Conforto could fit that role, or he could end up playing a really important role on this Dodgers team in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're signing him to be a guy for them, or hoping to be a guy for them. And like I said, just having assurance, like, can Dalton Rushing, outperform Michael Conforto if they both got the same amount of bats next year? Maybe, but Michael Conforto has a long history now of being a very good major league hitter, and that's what they're going to bank on for that. And it's a guy that fills a spot in the lineup at the moment, so it's good for the Dodgers. It's a move that we've seen a lot of guys that aren't major league type hitters or good major league hitters in the Dodgers lineup the last few years. So it'll be good to see this guy, get a chance. And now the Dodgers sign another Boris client. So, that's how they're making baby steps to, I don't know who the next big Boris guy is, but maybe there's a little bit
Corbin
of
Burns, right?
Yeah. There you go. Corbin Burns, or different guys out there that, maybe the Dodgers are going to start getting these types of guys now. So we'll see.
They were 1 for 2 on Boris clients today. So batting 500, that's not bad.
Yeah, that'll work. Adding Blake Snell already, it's you look at the Dodgers offseason, and Juan Soto is the big splashy name, but you look at what the Dodgers have done with Snell, now Conforto, bringing back Blake Treinen, who we're going to talk about, and they're looking good, and there's still more to come, you would imagine. So we'll just have to wait and see there. But Blake Treinen, he's back. It was maybe a surprising deal. We'll talk about it. Make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready and keep taking on NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. A live bet is just a bet that goes when the game's already going. And those are some of the best bets you can do because you can see how guys are doing. You can, expect guys to come back, expect teams to come back, whatever it is. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And if you want that $150 in bonus bets, all you got to do is place a $5 bet and win. I've continuously told you guys to keep betting the Raiders to lose. And if you would have done that with your $5 bet, you would have had your $150 in bonus bets because the Raiders lost once again. They don't play again until next Monday. So there's a lot of stuff you can check out on the FanDuel Sportsbook app to see what you want to place your $5 bet on if you don't want to wait a week. So go to FanDuel.com to join today. Get that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, last listen, any listen of the day. We appreciate you if you're an everydayer, and everydayer is just someone that listens or watches every day. We appreciate you that are here live with us on YouTube, getting the chat popping. A lot of you guys are everydayers, so we appreciate that. And remember, you can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You get text directly from us with any Dodger updates and news and things of that nature. And if you were a Locked On Dodgers insider, you would have got the news of everything that we've talked about on this show because we got it to you as quick as possible. And honestly, I found out about a couple things from that because I was at a family dinner tonight. So, and I had to hop on and, do some real work. So appreciate that. You guys can join subtext.com/Locked On Dodgers, a few bucks a month. Stay updated on the Dodgers. It works out for us too. So, all right, Jeff. So Conforto broke before Soto. Soto broke. And then, there was a lot to get into. But then we got another nugget. Dodgers signed Blake Treinen, 2 years, $22 million. Obviously, we both advocated for him to come back for the Dodgers. Does the money or 2 years surprise you at all?
No, not really. I think this is a perfect deal for both sides. This is more money per year than Treinen's ever made in his career. He maxed out at $10 million a couple of years ago, but he's also earned it. And in the big deal of things, I think, last time we talked about him on this show, we had a lot of comments in the chat and in the YouTube comments, people throwing out what they expected Treinen's contract to be. And this was a lot less than what a lot of people said. And I never thought that people were saying 15 to 20 million a year. And that just wasn't realistic to me. I think that was, for whatever reason. But you know what, for me, this feels great. This is a little bit of an overpay. And I feel like Blake Treinen has earned a little bit of an overpay with what he's done for the Dodgers. The fact that he went out and pitched 2 2/3 innings in game five of the World Series, that basically he earned that contract there, saying, I know I'm a free agent, but we have a chance to win the World Series right now. We are out of luck if I don't go as long as I can. We talked about it with Ben Casparius the other week. That was a huge moment in Dodger history, what Treinen did there. And for a team like the Dodgers, you pay a couple $1 million extra for a guy who put his body and everything on the line, and it literally won you a World Series.
Yeah, but you're paying for that type of stuff. You're paying for the highs of what comes with Blake Treinen, and maybe like I said, a little bit of a reward for doing that, a little bit of a reward for sticking with the Dodgers after he got hurt and everything else. And you look at, the 2 years was maybe a slightly surprising. I thought maybe an option for the second year, but obviously he feels confident enough to pitch for 2 more seasons, and the Dodgers got a good deal. We there's a couple of signings we'll talk about after all this, but one of those signings was Clay Holmes to the Mets the other day, and he got 3 years, $38 million, so more money annually and one more year. Obviously he's not a for sure closer. He can be a closer. He's a guy that's pitched big innings, and I think Blake Treinen got less years, less AAV. Obviously she's a little bit older, but and the Mets might want to make Clay Holmes a starter, so that might change things on their end. But for what the Dodgers needed, it's nice to get these deals out of the way, because you don't have to worry about, being stuck in a weird spot where you have to maybe overpay or do something you didn't want to do. Signing Blake Snell, maybe maybe Corbin Burns or somebody falls into your lap cheaper than you expected, and you don't need to have him, but now you can have him. Maybe the Dodgers can still trade for Devin Williams, but now it's not so much of a need. So if the Brewers are like, well, you need a closer, you need somebody that can pitch big innings, like, no, we're good. We have guys that have done it before or that do it already. So a lot of these, Teoscar, I think, was one of those where we kind of advocated to maybe sign them before all this type of stuff. So because now you do have to maybe compete with the Yankees and the Red Sox, and that changes his market a little bit. But on the flip side, Teoscar's agent was probably telling him like, hey, I know you really want to be a Dodger, but you're probably going to be able to get more money or more years if you wait till after Soto signs. And there's teams that didn't get him that want to be in on the outfielder market. So it's just different ways to go about it. But ultimately, it's a good deal for the Dodgers, good deal for Blake Treinen, and glad to see him back.
Yeah, on the Teoscar topic, there's been a lot of comments in the chat about Teoscar and hoping the Dodgers didn't miss out on Teoscar because they were focused on Soto. I think this was probably Teoscar Hernandez's choice to wait until after Soto signed, because his market is, he wants to be a Dodger. The Dodgers want him, but it would be foolish of him to not see what the offers are. And even if that's just to get the best contract he can get from the Dodgers, even if he's 100% sure he's coming back to the Dodgers, and now he knows, the Yankees are in the market for an outfielder. He didn't know if they were. And so his market is much better. I think this was probably Teoscar's choice. I don't think the Dodgers could have signed Teoscar last week, because I think he wanted to wait and see where Soto was going. I don't think anything has changed on the Teoscar front, because he still wants to be a Dodger. The Dodgers still want him. And, maybe they do overpay a little bit. Maybe they won't, but I think somewhere along the line, they're going to come to an agreement, because when you've got a relationship that works that perfectly, I think that, either the Red Sox or the Yankees would have to blow the Dodgers offer out of the water for it not to be a Dodgers and Teo reunion.
Yeah. So winter meetings kicked off Sunday. They'll continue on the next few days. There should be more things happening, but there was some other big news that happened before or in the time from last episode to now. Willy Adames will not be a Dodger. He signed with the Giants. 7 years, 180 something million.
780 or 182 or something.
Yeah,
182, I think.
Yeah, so Giants land a guy, Tyler O'Neill, who I think we've maybe casually mentioned before. He signed with the Orioles. Shane Bieber signed with the Guardians. I know there's a couple people that have mentioned Shane Bieber before. But, yeah, I mean, ultimately, we've talked about Adames. I don't think either of us were really advocating for him that strongly, just for the simple fact that, the Dodgers got by without a shortstop. So it wasn't necessarily priority to go and get a guy that is very good offensively, or good offensive, not very good, and maybe not as great defensively anymore.
Yeah, and that's the big question. And like I said last week when we were talking about shortstop, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers shortstop in 2025 is somebody we haven't even really given much thought to. And I still think that's a potential possibility. It's also possible that they sign another outfielder besides Teoscar too, and Tommy Edman is their shortstop with Miguel Rojas backing him up. Or, maybe Gavin Lux is a shortstop. They give him a shot in spring training again. There's all sorts of ways they could go. Shortstop isn't a need. Obviously, they need to figure out what they're doing at shortstop, but they might have already figured out what they're doing at shortstop, and they just haven't told us, which is, how they should be working. So the fact that they have Tommy Edman and Miguel Rojas and Gavin Lux and Mookie Betts, all of whom played shortstop for the Dodgers in the last 12 months makes them in a much better negotiating position if they are trying to trade for a shortstop. Just like you were talking about, when you're not coming from a position of need, you're in a stronger negotiating spot. I think that's where they're at with shortstop right now. And I think that they will use that to their advantage. But also sometimes you just fall back on those fallback plans. And I think they'd be fine doing that. This team should score a lot of runs, especially once they re-sign Teoscar Hernandez. I think it's going to be another really good Dodgers team. And hopefully, they, with the bullpen, maybe add a Tanner Scott, make people mad, get Corbin Burns too. And obviously Roki Sasaki is going to be a Dodger. So, all those things, it's been a good offseason so far. And today was another good day for the Dodgers in the offseason.
Yeah. Speaking of Roki Sasaki, he's expected to officially be posted this week during the winter meetings. That would open up the 45-day window, which would end after January 15th, which is, basically the day he's waiting for to. I'm sure he's going to meet with teams. Even if he does have a decision in mind, he's going to have to meet with teams, for the aesthetic purposes. But whatever it is, that once they open that window, at the very least, we'll know in 45 days or less, we'll know what happens with him. So, but there should be a lot more activity and movement here the next few days. So make sure to come check us out the rest of this week. If anything happens big in the moment, maybe we'll hop on live. I know Jeff probably gonna be driving for tomorrow, so hopefully Tasker waits till Jeff gets home. But either way.
Yeah, 2 years ago on this drive home from California at this time of year, I stopped at Eddie World north of Barstow and saw the Twitter report that the Dodgers had signed Jason Hayward to a minor league deal the first time they signed him. So maybe even a bigger news tomorrow. I'll stop at Eddie World. Make it happen, Andrew Friedman. I will be at Eddie World at about 9:45 a.m. tomorrow. So give me something to read on Twitter at Eddie World.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you're listening to this on Monday, happy 1 year anniversary to the Dodgers getting Shohei Ohtani. So, it's crazy. All that's happened in the 1 year since then. Ohtani was at the Laker game tonight on Sunday. So, he's continuing to be that guy for the Dodgers and was that guy for the Dodgers this year. If you're listening right now, it's the 1 year anniversary of when it was reported by somebody that he was going to be a Blue Jay. And it ultimately didn't end up being that way. So,
did that not work out?
Yeah, we're glad for that. So, all right. You got anything else, Jeff?
Nope. Like you said, I'll be driving tomorrow. So I will be back in my bobblehead office for tomorrow night's episode.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers, and you can subscribe to get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. You can find us. No, you can check out Locked On Sports Day and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can check out Locked On MLB Podcast with our pal Sully, bringing you all the news from around the baseball world. You can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with all the latest Dodgers news, updates, rumors, and more. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Locked On Dodgers. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincents91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, take your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.